Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video here on the Go on Fourth channel. We are back talking about DraftKings yet again. Crazy amount of views on the last video, man. Like 50 some odd views. Like the second week we were posting videos and we get 50 views on one of these DFS videos. That's crazy, man. That's crazy love. Appreciate everybody that watched that video. Hopefully you came back for this one. We're talking about week 4 of DraftKings, man, and kind of just feels crazy, kind of surreal that we're through 4 weeks already, or 3 weeks of the NFL season going into week 4. It just feels like it's flying by, like it always does. But we're back. Last week we did one of these videos. I talked about guys that I was in on this week, guys that I just loved from the perspective of playing in cash games. And this is the lineup that I ended up on last week. It's a little bit different from what I had, obviously. In the first look, as I tell you guys every time we do a first look, this is going to change. It's bound to change. Some things stayed the same. Jalen Hurts, Irv Smith. I want to say Olave was in that lineup too. Jalen Hurts was an absolute smash play. Everybody knew he was going to be, and he was. So shout outs to everybody. Only 25% in this particular cash game. This is like a 50-50 or something. But man, Hurts only 25% owned is kind of wild. Leonard Fournette, 12 points is not great. It didn't kill you though. 6,500. You obviously want more from him, but it's not the end of the world. David Montgomery got hurt, and his backup went absolutely insane against Houston. So shout out to Khalil Herbert, man. He took all the yards and all the touchdowns that we were going to get from Demont. And we'll talk about Khalil Herbert later. Tyreek Hill. I wanted to jump off of the Stephon Diggs bandwagon. I kind of mentioned it, I think, in the video last week that every time he plays Xavier Howard, it just feels like, he has a good game, but not a ceiling game or breakout game. I thought Tyreek had the potential to get a ceiling game. Obviously, nobody could have predicted that the Dolphins would have the ball for like 19 minutes out of the 60 in the game. That's pretty crazy. But Tyreek obviously didn't hit for us, but again, that's game script related, and it's not really anything we can do about it. It was a Jalen Waddle day, so big ups to you if you played Waddle. I considered him a couple of times, but I landed on Tyreek. Amon-Ra, 13 points. Again, not great, but didn't kill you. And almost half the people in this tournament played him, or in this 100-man played him. So it's not a huge deal, especially when he was so chalky anyway. Chris Olave is where I managed to get different. I'm surprised more people weren't on him. He had 13 targets last week. He had another 13 targets this week. Man, he went crazy. 147 receiving yards, 9 catches, broke 100 yards. Obviously got the bonus. Chris Olave, man, he's a force. He's a force to be reckoned with, and I'd be surprised if we see his price stay relatively low for too long. Irv Smith at 3K, kind of a punt play. Got 5 points. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It's not anything special. Obviously, there were some better tight end plays out there, but Irv was chalk, man. Everybody played Irv. Dameon Pierce, another place that I was able to get a little bit different from the field. Just 14% owned for Dameon Pierce. I like the matchup against Chicago's run defense. I didn't think they were very good. Now, obviously, I got a little lucky with a touchdown. He had a 80-yard day on the ground, had 20 yards receiving. So 2 catches out of the backfield, too, is not bad. I just liked how much they've been playing him. I feel like they've been playing him a lot. They played him a lot in week 2, and I felt like he kind of came into his own. Saw a little bit more of him week 2. Thought this week, was a good week for him, and it turned out to be pretty good. 18 points on just a 5K salary is pretty solid. On Jaguars defense, I expected Herbert to not play. He did, but what can you do? He did play. Jacksonville's defense played fine. They got a pick. They got a fumble recovery. They got a sack. 1 sack is kind of surprising, but they got 1 sack. And Jacksonville's defense ended up hitting. Only 21% of the people played Jacksonville's defense too, so I got a little bit different there. So this lineup managed to cash in quite a few of the cash games I played, just because a lot of people were on some chalky options that didn't really go crazy. Amon-Ra, Demont, Fournette, Diggs. I mean, Diggs had 14, but like you're paying that much for 14. It's kind of same as Tyreek almost, where I paid that much for 5. It's just you need to get different some places, especially when you're going in cash. Obviously, there's a lot of chalk, and most people are just going to play what everybody else is playing. So I did find ways to differentiate the lineup a little bit from the crowd, and it worked out for me with Olave, with Pierce, kind of with Jacksonville defense, kind of with Hurts, to be honest, 25% with Hurts. I thought he would be much higher owned than that. So that was last week. This is this week. So first thing we're going to look at really, really briefly is the Thursday night game. Usually I do a dedicated video to the Thursday night game. I'm not going to do that this week. We're just going to talk about it really, really quickly here in this week 1, or not week 1, first look video here for week 4. Now, I will preface this by saying I'm probably not going to be playing any type of DFS on Thursday. I'm a Dolphins fan, so it just feels a little too close to home to play showdown type here in this game, right? If I was going to, and I still may, but if I was going to, I would want something for cash games specifically. I would probably end up captaining a quarterback. A lot of people do that in cash. Just kind of seems like a safe bet. I like Burrow or Tua here. The Dolphins do run a lot of cover too, and their defensive front, at least against Buffalo, was able to maintain and get a lot of pressure against Josh Allen. And we know how the Bengals' offensive line has struggled. So I don't hate either one of these quarterback options as the captain. And just so I can be an unbiased participant here, we'll go Burrow at captain, right? I definitely still want Tua in the mix if we're going to have in cash games. I mean, you just want to maximize your floor, right? These two guys have a great floor. I wouldn't be too worried about Tua's injury. I know it kind of seems like something you may worry about, but if he was able to come in and finish the game against the Bills, I think he's fine. If Teddy Bridgewater plays, I'm a little more hesitant to play a second quarterback, even though he would be cheaper. We'll just have to monitor that situation as it goes throughout the week. But I want two pass catchers from these guys as well. And what better pass catcher for Miami than Jalen Waddle? He's red hot. Obviously monitor the injury situation, but I haven't heard much about it. And then T. Higgins, again, he was toe tap away from scoring a touchdown, which he really did score. So they don't take that touchdown away from him. He has a pretty good game against the Jets. And obviously it's a different team that he's playing against here, but Xavier Howard's probably going to be on Jamar Chase. So I like T. Higgins this week. I think he's fine. If you want to play Tyler Boyd, I get that. I'm cool with that. Tyler Boyd's a good play as well. I like Dolphins defense this week, even though I think it could be a game that potentially shoots out. I feel like this game also has the potential for a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow, a lot of sacks, a lot of potential sack fumbles, maybe a lot of forced passes due to pressure, which would lead to interceptions. So I do like Dolphins defense this week. And at the end, it's kicker of your choice. I guess if I'm going Burrow as my captain, I probably want Jason Sanders as my kicker because you don't want to be pulling for Evan McPherson to get field goals if your captain is Burrow. Vice versa, if Tua is your captain, I would probably use McPherson as your kicker if you're going to use a kicker. And usually I wouldn't use defense and kickers in these spots, but these seem like fairly good value plays, and it seems like good options that we have as pass catchers too. I mean, this lineup I think is pretty solid if you're going to play a cash game. All right. Moving on to the main slate, what everybody cares about, 12 games this week. And there's a lot of different routes you can go. As in every week, right? There's tons of different things you can do. What I'm going to do is we're going to start at running back. This is not something I usually would do, but we're going to do it this week. So let's look at the running back position. Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Saquon Barkley are all fairly appropriately priced in my opinion. Jonathan Taylor still hasn't had his breakout game. That could very easily be this week against Tennessee's defense. I thought Josh Jacobs looked really good last week against Tennessee, so I don't see why Jonathan Taylor would look bad. I know the Colts offensive line has had some trouble, but Tennessee's not really a team that scares me in terms of stopping running backs. Christian McCaffrey against another great matchup in Arizona. If you play either one of those guys in cash, I completely understand it. I really do. I think they're both good cash game plays this week. I would probably lean towards McCaffrey. It just depends on game script, right? If Arizona gets ahead, then McCaffrey, he'll get some catches out of the backfield maybe. So it might be fine still. But Jonathan Taylor, if you think they're going to be winning that game, the whole game, then Jonathan Taylor's a smash play as well, potentially. Derrick Henry, I'm probably just not interested in ever. I know he had a lot of work out of the backfield last week. He had 5 catches on 6 targets. That's an anomaly game. He has one of those about every year where people think, oh, they're finally going to start getting him involved as a pass catcher, and then they don't. They forget that he exists. So I wouldn't hedge your bets on that. I think he looked better running the football. Obviously, he had a 24-yard run that helped a lot, but I think he looked better than he has in previous weeks. He's going against the worst defense. So about the same as the Giants game, to be fair. So I think Derrick's fine this week. I like Saquon against the Bears. Bears are struggling to stop the run in every game they play. Saquon is running the ball pretty efficiently. He looks really good this year. He's healthy. So I like Saquon this week as well. I think he could be a big play. We're going to go a little bit further down the board. I like Eckler this week too, by the way, because Houston can't stop the run. And Austin Eckler, Obviously last week was a little bit of a weird game because they were getting blown out by Jacksonville. But, if he gets 14 carries again against Houston, I mean, he could very easily have 70, 80, 90 yards plus whatever he gets through the air. But this is the first guy we're going to talk about. Javonte Williams. Now, Javonte Williams against Vegas, I like. I like the matchup against Vegas. We just watched Derrick Henry kind of have his way with them a little bit, at least, somewhat on the ground, but then also through the air. Javonte Williams is going to get targets, man. He's a target guy. You look at him, 12, 4, 5. Russell Wilson is check down Charlie this year. For whatever reason, Russell Wilson wants to check the ball down. Javonte Williams is always there. He's always around where Russ is looking to check it down. I think if he gets 15 carries, then he could very easily go over 100 yards again, or for the first time this season. But I think he could very easily go over 100 yards against Vegas. And his pass game work, man, you can't ignore it. And he hasn't had a touchdown this year, but I think he's been a little bit unlucky in that regard. I think he's due for one. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say with DFS, but I think he is due. I think he's kind of been unlucky to not score this year. So I like Javonte Williams this week. But we're going to go a little bit cheaper. Cordarrelle Patterson, I like as well. I think against Cleveland, who right now is down Jadeveon Clowney, they're down Myles Garrett. I would assume because of a car accident that Myles Garrett was in today that he's probably not going to play. And Cordarrelle Patterson last week got volume, man. 17 carries. If he gets that again in what should be a pretty slow-paced game against Atlanta, I like Cordarrelle. I think he's probably going to have a decent game again. He was in my first look lineup from last week, and I chose not to play him. It is what it is, right? If we scroll on down and we find Jamaal Williams. This is my first lock of the week. I'm locking Jamaal Williams in, and there's not really anything that anybody can say to change my mind on that unless DeAndre Swift makes a miraculous recovery from his shoulder, but I don't think that's happening. Jamaal Williams, man, when he got the volume last week and got the opportunity, he looked good. He's looked good all year. He's run well. He seems fresh coming out from Green Bay. 20 carries, 87 yards is certainly good enough, especially against Minnesota. Now he takes on Seattle, who Cordarrelle Patterson just ripped apart. So I really do like Jamaal Williams this week. I think he's a solid play. Obviously, he's going to get goal line work. They're going to feed him around the goal line. He's going to get passing game work as well. This is kind of a limited supply from him, but I do expect maybe 4 to 5 targets this week instead of the 1 to 2 that he's been getting from splitting time. But I do like Jamaal Williams this week. He's going to be chalk. Everybody's going to play him, but I do really like him this week. Looking at the next chalky piece, we have Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert. Excuse me. Khalil Herbert. What can you say? I mean, he came in for David Montgomery last week, and he looked great, man. He looked great. He's in a run-heavy offense. Matt Eberflus is terrified of Justin Fields throwing the football. Justin Fields might also be terrified of throwing the football. So they're going to try to get Khalil Herbert the ball a lot. And if David Montgomery doesn't play, Khalil Herbert is that guy. He's been that guy this year already. He's looked the part at times, and maybe at more times than just a few. He's looked better than David Montgomery. So I think Khalil Herbert's probably a smash play this week. I think everybody's going to play him against the Giants defense that, the Cowboys looked really, really good running the ball against. And again, Justin Fields is not going to throw the ball around the yard, at least not right now. So Khalil Herbert's a lock for me. Looking further, because I always play running back in my flex and cash. I always do. If we look a little further down, I like Damian Harris. I like him as a player. It's hard to pick a running back for the Patriots and feel comfortable with it. If I was going to pick a running back from the Patriots, which this week I think I will, because Green Bay against the run has not been great. I lean a little bit more towards Ramondre Stevenson for his pass-catching work. Brian Hoyer is going to be starting, I would assume. And I just think, man, a backup quarterback's best friend is a running back that he can check the ball down to when he gets a little nervous, when he gets into some trouble. And I think Ramondre is that guy. He's been running well this year. They're giving him the ball a good bit, 12 carries, 4 receptions. That's 16 touches. And Green Bay's defense against the run hasn't really been stellar. They were better last week against Fournette. It's a tough call. I like Ramondre Stevenson this week. I like Damian Harris this week. Looking at other cheap running backs that I like, none down here really. Not too many down here. I also like Josh Jacobs against Denver. No, Denver's been pretty good against the run, but if they're going to get Jacobs involved in the passing game like this, I think this is probably going to be a competitive game. And again, man, Jacobs is their goal line guy. I mean, when they get on the goal line, when they run the ball, it's usually to Josh Jacobs. And he hasn't had a touchdown this year, but again, I feel like, it's kind of weird to say for DFS, but I feel like he's due for one. He's getting the ball a good bit. He's getting some passing game work, even when he was sick this week. I like Josh Jacobs. We're going to put Ramondre Stevenson in this lineup just for now. Just as a first look, again, At receiver, there's a lot of decent plays this week. A lot of really good plays. Stephon Diggs is questionable. I'm assuming it's because he has full body cramps after running around at 100 and whatever degree heat in Miami. I like Stephon Diggs this week. I think his price is appropriate, but against Baltimore secondary with how banged up they've been, I like Diggs this week. If you wanted to play Gabe Davis, I'm fine with playing Gabe Davis. I think Gabe Davis is not a bad play against Baltimore secondary. I think Isaiah McKenzie's not a bad play. And there's every possibility that I jump off of Diggs and onto Davis or Isaiah McKenzie as the week goes on. But right now, everything kind of points towards Diggs to me, right? And looking at different projections from around, I like Stephon Diggs this week. If we go now, and this is kind of the way that I build it, and I'll kind of walk you guys through it. First thing I usually do is look at quarterback. We're going to come back to quarterbacks. I think building 3 running backs, getting your 3 running backs that are your floor guys, right? Especially in cash. These are my 3 floor running backs that I think have a good floor this week that are really appropriately priced, if not maybe a little too cheap, right? A floor wide receiver in Stephon Diggs, if you have cheap running backs, you can go for a big floor wide receiver and you're fine, right? Looking at defense and special teams, it really is just kind of a game time decision. Right now, my lean is towards Tennessee. I like Tennessee this week. If I had to continue to lean, I would say, to give you guys some more options, I like the Broncos this week against the Raiders. I like I kind of like the Jags as a sneaky one against Philly, just in case you see Jalen kind of regress a little bit in what's probably going to be a close game against Jacksonville. But I like the Titans. We'll stick with the Titans. Going to tight end. Now, tight ends are priced very interestingly this week. Obviously, there's no superstar smash guys this week. There's a lot of those big star smash players. Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. Those guys are playing in primetime this week. So what we have is Mark Andrews, who is priced at $7,100, who is crazy good, in my opinion, in a good game script against Buffalo. He's probably going to have a smash day. He's probably going to play really well. He's had 2 in a row, but I think he's probably going to have another. I'm a little bit more interested in this guy. Last week, they managed to get him more involved. I think Atlanta's going to be able to keep it close with Cleveland. I think that Kyle Pitts at $5K, I think it's time to just get him some end zone targets, get him a touchdown. But I like Kyle Pitts. If they start looking his way more, he's obviously going to be great. Dallas Goedert, I like this week as well. He kind of had a quiet game other than his touchdown, but I think Dallas Goedert is also a good play at $4,500. He could be a guy that I flex to toward the end of the week. Same with TJ Hawkinson. I struggle to play him with Jamal Williams because I feel like touchdowns in football games are limited, and I kind of don't want to hamstring myself to, if Hawkinson scores, that means Jamal didn't in a way. And looking down here, I like Njoku at $3,700. I think he's a solid play. He had a huge week last week. Obviously, you can't replicate that every week, but Atlanta's not necessarily a fantastic football team, so it's possible. Evan Ingram, kind of, again, a quiet week, but Jacksonville against Philly, probably playing from behind. Philly's linebackers aren't the best in the league. I don't hate Evan Ingram. I do hate that picture of him, but I don't hate him as a player this week in DFS. I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts, and we'll keep looking. If I decided to go cheaper at tight end, I would probably get off of Ramondre Stevenson and go a little bit more expensive at running back. And that'll probably be something that I look at later on. At wide receiver, now that we have kind of a rough estimate, we know we're going to have to spend big on our quarterback this week probably, just based off the quarterbacks that are available. So at receiver, we're going to look for some value plays at receiver. I like Christian Kirk. I like how they use him in Jacksonville. I like him against the Eagles. I don't think it's a bad matchup for him per se, but I'm not on him this week. Not yet, at least. Amari Cooper, I like. I don't think that Atlanta has a defender that is going to slow him down from getting his, targets, his catches. The only thing slowing him down would be Jacoby Brissett. In the last 2 weeks, that hasn't slowed him down. Moving down. Deontay Johnson, I like. Target machine. If he just wouldn't drop the football, he would have had a pretty insane game against Cleveland. He dropped some passes that he really should have caught. 3 of them, I guess, to be exact. And he could have really had just a complete breakout game. Unfortunately, he did drop a few passes. Whereas, speaking of drop passes, did I pass him? I did. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is playing a really, really terrible secondary in Washington. Keep your eye out on this game. Keep your eye out on CeeDee Lamb. I like CeeDee Lamb this week. I really do. 6,700. That's not a bad price for him. If he continues to get these targets, continues to get looks in the end zone, he could be a smash play this week. And again, they haven't priced him up because he played on Monday. I like CD this week as well. But we're going to go down a little further. And there's obviously good plays all throughout here. Rashad Bateman, if you want to get in on that Baltimore and Buffalo game, which you should. Rashad Bateman's not a bad play. Let's keep going. Where is my guy? Where's my guy that I want here? Romeo Doubs. Dobbs, I don't know. Dubs. I'm going to call him Dubs because I think that's what people are calling him. Last week, had probably a ceiling game. 8 catches on 8 targets, 73 yards and a touchdown. That's probably a ceiling game. We're not expecting that. If he can get us 12, 15 fantasy points, he 3Xs, and that's solid enough, man. All I need is him to get 12 fantasy points. I think he's very, very capable of doing that. It seemed like they found pretty creative ways to get him the ball last week, which I was really impressed with. And I enjoyed watching them get him the football. He seems like a competent receiver, one of the very few on that team. He and the corpse of Randall Cobb. So give me some Romeo Doubs this week. And my final pick. First of all, I would be remiss. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins, Dolphins legend. Man, he went ballistic against Tennessee. What an incredible game for him. I do not foresee that continuing, unfortunately for him, against Denver. I just don't see it. You can chase that if you want. I'm not chasing it. I think Denver's not going to give up 158 yards to Mac Hollins. I can be wrong, but what that tells me more than anything is we need to start targeting Tennessee as potential just big receiver matchup, right? Like a really plus receiver matchup against Tennessee. The guy that I like this week is Zay Jones. And again, in a way, you are kind of chasing a little bit. 10 catches, 11 targets, but his target share over the past 3 weeks, 24 targets in 3 games. I mean, that's averaging 8 targets a game. He is the safety blanket, man. He's Trevor Lawrence's safety blanket. He throws to him a lot. And again, they didn't really have to throw against Indy. They certainly didn't really have to throw against LA, but he still was able to amass a pretty solid outing against the Chargers. I like him this week, man. I like him against Philly. I think that Darius Slay is going to probably be on Christian Kirk. I like Zay Jones as the wide receiver 2 this week for that team. I think he's going to have a good game. And at quarterback, we have left ourselves enough money for every quarterback on the slate. So let me tell you my thought process, and let me tell you why I'm at where I'm at. Okay? Josh Allen just came off of a ridiculous game against the Miami Dolphins that he lost, where he threw for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 47 yards. He fumbled 3 times, which is pretty uncommon for Josh. This is a huge game for him against a secondary that is depleted, that is injured, just like his. Okay? So Josh Allen is in play. Lamar Jackson, definitely in play. The passing numbers for Lamar are probably not going to blow you away like they did against Miami. His rushing yards have that potential every week, right? He could break 100 rushing yards every single week. He could double bonus every week, potentially, right? I think, even with the injuries, that Buffalo's defense is probably still a little bit better than Baltimore's. And I just don't think the Ravens' offense is as dynamic as Buffalo's. I think Lamar is probably going to have not necessarily a bad game, but maybe a 25-point fantasy game, which is not what we're looking for here. Jalen Hurts against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is not necessarily a scary opponent, but they did just hold Justin Herbert to 10 points. And a lot of Herbert's yards and the things that he did were in garbage time, the fourth quarter. So Jalen may have his hands full this week. One person I didn't mention is Devontae Smith. Obviously, play Devontae Smith. Just play him. Because, again, like, who's going to cover him? Nobody can cover him. He's just open all the time. Just play him. I'm not playing him this week, but you should. You should play him. Because when he gets 40, I'm going to look like an asshole. And you guys are going to be right. Jalen Hurts, man. I like him this week. I don't like him at his price point as much as I like Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's the play. I think Jalen Hurts is a fine play. I think he is definitely fine to get you 25 to 30 fantasy points. These guys are 25 to 30 locks, basically. And I know that's crazy to say that because now I've jinxed it, but give me Josh Allen. Like I said, Ravens secondary is really banged up. The Bills are going to be at full strength. Gabe Davis played last week. Stephon Diggs is going to play. Isaiah McKenzie had a great game last week. They're at full strength. Give me Josh Allen. I think that he's going to be fantastic for them. And I like quarterbacks down the board as well. Don't get me wrong. I like the matchup for Herbert against Houston. I think that's solid. I just can't really trust his ribs right now. I'm a little worried about him getting hurt mid-game. I don't hate Kyler against Carolina. He's putting up crazy numbers in terms of how many times he's throwing the ball and crazy disappointing numbers for how little times he's running. So that's a concern. Jared Goff. Not a bad week for Jared Goff. I wouldn't play him, but you could. Trevor Lawrence. He's looked a lot better this year, but I wouldn't really do it. The only other quarterback that I really like down here is probably Marcus Mariota. He's really the guy that I like down here. He didn't have a fantastic game against Seattle, but he played fairly well. He didn't really run around as much as I was hoping he would, but he did score a touchdown on the ground. He threw for a touchdown as well. I like Mariota as a pay down option this week, but I'm not paying down. I'm going for the big guy. I'm going for Josh Allen. This is the lineup that I want. So, this is obviously going to be tweaked throughout the week. It's going to change as we go. But this is the lineup that I'm sticking with, at least for, the next 15 minutes on Tuesday night. So, this has been the first look lineup. I'll hit you guys next week, obviously, with whatever lineup I actually choose to play, which is going to be vastly different, I'm sure. But again, just kind of going through the thought process, going through the slate, and just kind of looking at players that we like. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, make sure you leave a like, comment on the video, subscribe, all that YouTube shit. And also, be on the lookout. We're going to have some betting guide videos coming out for week number 4, as well as the week 4 recap, which should already be up on, or week 3 recap, which should already be up on the channel. Week 4 is not going to be up yet because it hasn't happened yet. All right, all that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like I said, all the YouTube shit, and we'll be back. You guys stick around the channel, watch some videos. See you guys later. Don't forget, going forth.